Hey there everyone. I said I'd do a process video for the Supergirl drawing I published a couple of weeks ago. So here it is. So we're starting off with the pencils. And you can see I've got the reference model on the left there. I make a huge amount of use of references. I just can't make the stuff out of my own head. And how are you going to check that it looks right if you are? Even for the fantastical images, they've got to be rooted in some kind of reference, in my opinion, for lighting, etc. Now, hair. I'm not great at drawing hair, so again, another reference here. And I'm just taking my time with the pencils to get the rough shape of the hair correct. So the pencil layer is where you really want to get the foundation of your drawing right. 'Cause if you get something wrong here, it's that much harder to fix when you've moved into inks and line work and colors and so on and so forth. Now, I did want to have Supergirl sitting on some kind of eagle-type gargoyle. Didn't really work out because I didn't want to lose the work I'd done on the shaping of her right leg. I felt it was lost in this particular version of the thing she's sitting on. But I liked the idea that it gave an easy reference for the fact that she's up high somewhere. Combined with the blowing of the cape, I thought that gave quite a nice image of just her perching high up the side of some skyscraper in Metropolis. But yeah, getting to the end of the pencil stage here. So at this point, I create another layer. I drop the opacity of the pencils layer and I start putting in my line work. So it's at this point I start experimenting with line thickness to get different thicknesses of lines, obviously, to indicate the depth and the proportions of the drawings. So I'll use a heavier line on things I want to be the outline and that I want to make obvious or in front of something else. And you can see me bopping the pencils layer in opacity up and down again, just to give us more of a feeling for where the drawing is going. Now, I have to say thanks to the members of the How to Draw Comics Facebook group here, because once the line work was done, I shared the line work as a work in progress piece and got some great feedback from a member called Marc Brunet, I think his name was, on how I can make her face a bit more like a kind of a classic Supergirl comic book. So you'll see that. Here we go. This is the bit where I created another layer, got it right based on his feedback, and then remerged it. So colors, create another layer, put in some grey shading, just use a mask to make sure I kept it all within the lines. And I then laid down my flat colors. Now I'm following a tutorial from a gentleman named Marc Brunet on the internet. I will put a link in the description, but his method of coloring: you lay down your flats, you've got your lines, you lay down your flats, you then put in different types of shading. Now the three types I've gone for here are: the first one works as if your eye is the source of light, so anything that's further away from you on an object, so the outside of Supergirl's arms, for instance, would have more shading on them than the bit nearest me. Then on a separate layer you go for something like ambient occlusion, where anywhere that overlaps with something else, you get some shading on the thing that is overlapped. And then on a third layer you get sunlight. Now I always wanted in this image the sunlight to be coming from the top right, so that gives her shade, a lot of shadows on the underside of her hair, and on that rear arm, the right arm, which is kind of in the shadowiest bit of the picture. And you'll see me toggling these different layers back on and off and putting the base colors back on as well. So the shading layers are all set to multiply, so they will combine their effects with the multiply layers below and then put them on top of the flats. So even without the flats, you should end up with a passable, well, more than passable, black and white drawing. Okay, at this point, drop another layer on top, set it to hard light mode, and I'm now just adding any highlights. So key bits, bit of scenery, bit of cloud, adding some highlights to the bits that are nearest the sun, and I really want to pop when someone's looking at the picture. So you can see kind of the top locks of her hair on the top left of her head as she's looking at us, bits around the skirt, edge of the cape, shoulders of the cape on the left shoulder there, and side of the boots. And the intention was that's just to really bring those bits out. And yeah, that was it. Felt I learned a lot. It was interesting. Hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully see you again soon.